The Big Ten is closing in on a private capital deal. That came out on Friday. It's going to infuse $2 billion into the conference. And today showed us exactly why that matters with the craziness of the coaching carousel and James Franklin being fired. And all of this could lead to a Big 12 coach or maybe coaches getting poached. Okay, so let's connect the dots. On a wild day of college football news, we saw 3 coaches fired today, 2 much less consequential than James Franklin, but it's a growing list of jobs that are now open in college football, and the Big 12 has not been immune from that with Mike Gundy. Trent Dilfer at UAB, I mean, that was a long time coming. That had been kind of a disaster. Trent Bray at Oregon State, who was 0-7. A couple Big 12 teams contributed to that. Houston's miraculous comeback win and Texas Tech blowing them out. And then, of course, James Franklin. So James Franklin, he's going to be owed $49 million. Yeah, $49 million is what it's going to cost Penn State to fire James Franklin. He, of course, lost to Northwestern, which is a horrific loss, backed up against the UCLA loss when UCLA had not led anybody the entire season, which, of course, was preceded by the home loss to Oregon, which is where all of this started tumbling down for James Franklin and company. James Franklin won 13 games last year. He went to the college football playoff semifinal. He's now fired and is going to be owed $49 million. Welcome to big-time college football. And Penn State certainly asserts itself as a big-time college football program. I do think it is very important to emphasize here that all this comes on the heels of the story that broke Friday about the Big Ten closing in on this $2 billion private capital deal, which, crazy enough, I mean, all this just seems so like, how are we here in college sports? Why is this a thing? But it's the University of California System Pension Fund is what is investing the money here. So it's not even like a private equity firm. It's the pension fund of the University of like California System. So much with that, I mean, Cal, people saying like, oh, was Cal going to like buy their way back in? Like, it's just ridiculous that this is where we're at so that coaches can afford schools can afford $49 million buyouts. They need $2 billion in private capital because of that. But this is the world that we live in right now. That's a whole other tangent. And I will give a shout out to Stuart Mandel. I thought he wrote a good column about this. Hard to listen to colleges complain about like, oh, woe is us. We need money. We now have to revenue share with the players when Jimbo Fisher's being paid $80 million to go away. Now you've got James Franklin being paid $49 million to go away. Stuart Mandel did the math on all the coaching buyouts that are likely to happen this year, and it would be over $200 million that's likely to be doled out in buyouts this year to college football coaches. Yeah, it's a little hard to be like, oh, yeah, boy, poor universities here when everybody's paying that much to just fire people, paying them to not work for them. That's kind of like a smallest violin thing. Like, you guys just are not managing money well. You're getting your just raked over the coals by like the Jimmy Sextons, the super agents of the world, who take advantage of high leverage situations when an athletic director in the span of like 48 hours has to come up with a new deal because the coach is about to get poached. And it was a great job that Mandel did of outlining that's what happened with James Franklin. USC, when they wound up hiring Lincoln Riley, that was the rumor that James Franklin was going to go there. And all of a sudden they had to do something to wrap it up, and they give Franklin this big guaranteed contract. But the fallout of this is, and the real example that I would make of this is like, this is the type of thing that like a Big Ten or an SEC school can do because of this extra money that a Big 12 school is not going to be able to do. Okay. I'm sure Penn State is doing this right now in the back of their mind with the thought, hey, we're going to get a ton of money because it's a 9-figure payday, right? So we're talking $100 million plus for every single Big Ten team, rather, with this $2 billion private capital deal. They know that $100 million is coming. And so whether or not it's donors that would handle this, I'm sure this would be a structured buyout. Some of it, I think, can be offset if he takes a new job. So there are ways that this could get whittled down and spaced out a little bit. And so maybe it's donors that take care of it. But then, hey, we've got this big private capital infusion, so we won't have to tap those donors as much if they're going to take care of this problem for us. Either way, whether it's directly the private capital money you'd be counting on for this, or it's, hey, we won't have as much donor fatigue because we can use that money that's coming in from the pensions of California employees Again, so ridiculous to say. One way or the other, you get things taken care of here. Big 12 schools don't have that luxury right now unless you do wind up going down the private capital road. And I guess keep your eye on that because it's already been reported that the Big 12 has gone down that road. They just didn't get across the finish line. So we'll see. Now, will there be extra pressure because the Big 10 is doing it? But for instance, Penn State just a year after winning 13 games and going to the semifinals of the playoff, they go 3-3, they lose 3 straight games and say, sayonara, here's $49 million. K-State fans have been frustrated with Chris Kleiman this year, and you got a portion of the fan base, of course, that's like, hey, I'm done with this. Let's move on. Well, Chris Kleiman's got a buyout of north of $20 million. I mean, good luck. Like that, there's not a $200 million private capital. The pensions of the University of Kansas employees are not coming in to save the day at K-State with that. So you're in a totally different situation. And I've said before, the difference or the way that this type of money can make a huge difference, whether it's the TV money gap that currently exists between the Big Ten and SEC and everybody else, or we're talking about now the extra layer on top of it that comes from Big Ten enterprises. One of the biggest ways that makes a difference is because you can do more with your staff, not just like your head coach moves, which this is now a part of it, paying buyouts, but also hiring bigger defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, your staff, your support staff, more people, better video people, better in-game experience stuff. Like that money can win you a lot in the margins, not just like the obvious things that we think of, which would be paying players, but it can go a long way toward being able to pay buyouts of coaches, getting better defensive coordinators. Like look at Penn State. Penn State wound up getting Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator this year. It didn't work, but he's making like $3 million. He's the highest paid assistant, I believe, in college football. So that is the way that you can really win with this excess money around. Whereas, Big 12 schools, you got to be a lot tighter with the purse strings on everything there. So this is another one of those ways. I just wanted to point out and emphasize that if you see this and you say, man, that seems crazy, it's ridiculous that amount of money can be thrown out there to get rid of a guy, just know that one, yes, it is crazy. And the whole economic system here is very messed up. And this is everybody is headed toward a really rough landing with this at some point. And maybe there will be some reform on coaches' contracts because of this type of thing. I don't know. I would suggest probably not, because private capital is just going to make people more willing to do this because they have extra money floating around. But also, hey, if you're a Big 12 school, you got to look around and just be like, dude, we got to stick it out. Now, maybe this could be a better thing in some ways for Big 12 schools, actually. Okay. Spin zone here, people. Spin zone. In all seriousness, like Penn State may wind up Nebraska-ing themselves with this because like I said, James Franklin has won double-digit games each of the last 3 years. James Franklin's been a damn good coach. He's just not an elite coach. And so Penn State's like tired of being very good. Penn State wants to be elite. They're going to take their swing. But man, there is absolutely a chance that you pay a ton of money to go get a guy who's just going to be as good or worse than what James Franklin was. And does that send you down a long road to becoming Nebraska, right? Nebraska at one point was winning 9 or 10 games every year with Frank Solich, but that wasn't good enough. And then they snapped their fingers 10 to 15 years later. Nebraska they have the longest bowl list streak in Power 4 football. So, that could happen. And sometimes having some more patience does work out. One of the examples I always point to with that in past Big 12 days was like Gary Pinkel, at Mizzou, got off to a pretty slow start. And there were a lot of Mizzou fans that wanted him gone. They had a lot of patience with him. And then all of a sudden they're up and running and they're a top 5 team. And Pinkel did some great, great things at Mizzou. So this could actually backfire and just be totally reckless spending, much to Stuart Mandel's point. But it is a difference in the flexibility that you have if you are a school in the Big 10 versus a school in the Big 12 because of the money that is there.